There were two surrender signings. The first was on May 7, 1945, when German Colonel Alfred Jodl signed Germany's surrender on all fronts in Reims, France. The second signing, insisted upon by Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin, was by German Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel the next day in Berlin. Jodl and Keitel were later found guilty of war crimes by the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany, and both were subsequently executed. V-Day marked the end of most of the fighting in Europe, where tens of millions of service members and civilians were killed since the start of hostilities. The conflict began in 1939, when Germany and the Soviet Union invaded Poland. Among the dead were about 6 million Jews who were murdered by Nazi Germany. Some 250,000 U.S. troops were also killed in the fighting in the European theater. After the many deaths during the war in Europe, VE Day was cause for worldwide celebration. After the many deaths during the war in Europe, VE Day was cause for worldwide celebration. Tens of thousands of people filled the streets of New York, New Orleans, London, and cities in Canada, Australia, and other allied nations. There was also a massive celebration in Paris. U.S. forces participated in the celebrations in France, a nation that had borne much of the brunt of the fighting. The Soviets celebrated their own Victory Day on May 9th. President Harry S. Truman announced VE Day to the American people, saying in a radio address, "Our rejoicing is sobered and subdued by a supreme consciousness of the terrible price we have paid to rid the world of Hitler and his evil band. Let us not forget, my fellow Americans, the sorrow and the heartache, which today abide in the homes of so many of our neighbors whose most priceless possession has been rendered as a sacrifice to redeem our liberty." Although fighting ended in Europe, it continued in the Pacific, where U.S. and Allied forces fought the Japanese in Okinawa, the Philippines, and other places. The areas of Western Europe liberated by Allied forces would become thriving democracies, while those liberated in the East would be occupied for decades by Soviet forces. Today, memorials around the world mark the events of VE Day and World War II and honor those who served and paid the ultimate sacrifice, including the National World War II Memorial in Washington. Surrender of Germany and capitulation of Germany redirect here. For the armistice between the Weimar Republic of Germany and the Allied powers that ended World War I, see Armistice of 11 November 1918. The German instrument of surrender was a legal document affecting the unconditional surrender of the remaining German armed forces to the Allies and ended World War II in Europe. The signing took place at 22:43 CET on 8 May 1945, and the surrender took effect at 23:01 CET on the same day. The day before that, Germany had signed another surrender document close to it with the Allies in Reims in France, but it was not recognized by the Soviet Union for enforcement, so another document was needed to sign, and in addition, immediately after signing, the German forces were ordered to cease fire in the west and continue fighting in the east. Germany, under the Flensburg government, led by the head of state, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, also accepted the Allied suggestion to sign a new document. The document was signed at the seat of the Soviet military administration in Germany, Karlshorst, Berlin, by representatives from the German Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, OKWC, the Allied Expeditionary Force, represented by the British and the Supreme High Command of the Soviet Red Army, with further French and American representatives signing as the witnesses. This time, Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel was the highest representative of Germany at the signing. Also accepted the Allied suggestion to sign a new document. The document was signed at the seat of the Soviet military administration in Germany, Karlshorst, Berlin, by representatives from the German Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, OKWC, the Allied Expeditionary Force represented by the British and the Supreme High Command of the Soviet Red Army, with further French and American representatives signing as the witnesses. This time, Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel was the highest representative of Germany at the signing ceremony. This surrender document of Germany also led to the de facto fall of Nazi Germany. As one result of Nazi Germany downfall, the Allies had de facto occupied Germany since the German defeat, which was later confirmed via the Berlin Declaration by the four countries of Allies. As the common representative of New Germany, United States US, United Kingdom UK, France, and Soviet Union USSR, on 5th of June 1945. There were 3 language versions of the surrender document: English, Russian, and German, with the English and Russian versions proclaimed in the document itself as the only authoritative ones.